I want to talk about number one, why your goals have not worked in the past, what it is that you're doing wrong with your goal setting and how you can fix it. Can you believe that it is already 2021? We are going into a brand spanking new year, and you know what that means. It's time to set some goals, right? We do it every year. We set New Year's resolutions, we set goals, we get so excited for all the things that we're going to do. And then what happens? Halfway through January, maybe 6 days in, maybe you make it to the end of January, those goals just fall flat, right? They never hold up. We never seem to be able to actually accomplish the goals that we set for ourselves at the beginning of the year. And maybe you're listening to this later in the year, but you really want to start setting goals and be intentional about it. And so that is what this today is all about. I want to talk about number one, why your goals have not worked in the past, what it is that you're doing wrong with your goal setting and how you can fix it. And then number two, how to actually set those really tangible, intentional goals that you're actually going to be able to achieve. Let's face it, a goal without action or without accountability, it's not going to work. You've got to follow your goal up with a plan. If you are simply setting goals and saying, here's what I'm going to do, here's what I'm going to achieve, then it's never going to work because you didn't set the actual tangible steps behind it that need to happen for you to be able to achieve it. So let's first talk about what it is that you're doing wrong, what it is that you're doing with your goal setting, how you're setting goals that really isn't correct. And I've got 3 points that I want to hit here that you need to fix. So number one of what you're doing wrong with your goal setting, you're setting goals for the year with no tangible timeline attached, right? How often do we sit down at the end of December or the beginning of January and we say, okay, it's a new year. Here's the goals that I want to achieve for 2021. And maybe you've got like 5 goals on that list. But then that's it. We go, okay, these are the goals I'm going to achieve. And then for a week or two, we are burning ourselves out. We're beating ourselves up. We're just killing ourselves trying to make these goals happen. And after 2 weeks of doing that, we're exhausted. We can't possibly do it anymore. We've been working on this whole list of goals without a real timeline. So that's when they fall flat. We burn out on those goals, which is why most people don't even make it to the end of January working on their goals. If you don't have a tangible timeline attached to each goal, and we'll get more into that in a second, then you can't possibly achieve it. It's going to burn you out. So setting a goal for the year, for 2021, or just in general, is not going to work. Number 2, not checking in or holding yourself accountable. How often, again, do you set a goal and then you say, okay, I'm going to do this thing. And then a month goes by and you haven't worked on it. And then maybe you kind of do something with it for a day or two, but then another month goes by and you haven't worked on it. And maybe you tell your friends and family about your goal at the beginning of the year, but then you never mention it again. And so at some point, your best friend is like, hey, whatever happened to you doing that thing? And you're like, well, I never worked on it, right? How often do we do that? You've got to have some type of accountability, whether it's yourself or another person, some sort of way to check in on your goals if you're going to actually keep progressing on them, keep moving forward. Number 3, you're setting goals without reason. Now, this is a big one and one we don't often think about. A lot of the time, we're setting goals based on where we currently are in our lives, right? Maybe you're a business owner and you want to hit a certain amount of revenue or get a certain amount of followers or grow a certain social media platform to a certain level. Maybe you've got those types of tangible goals. Maybe you're working on your health and you want to lose a certain amount of weight. or you want to be able to run a marathon. Maybe it's something else. Whatever it is for you, you've got to have a reason behind it. You've got to have a why. So instead of saying, oh, I want to hit 6 figures as a business owner this year, I want to bring in 6 figures of revenue. Or instead of saying, oh, I want to run a marathon, you've got to have a why behind it. Why do you need 6 figures? Why that number as opposed to something different? Why do you need to run a marathon as opposed to a mile or a half marathon or something else? Why those goals specifically? If you don't have a why, you're not fully attached to the goal. You need to know, what is my reasoning for wanting to achieve this? Because if you don't have a reasoning, you will never achieve it. Simple as that. So those are kind of the 3 things that you are doing wrong with your goal setting. And maybe those are kind of things you thought about before. I'm betting that last one, you really haven't put a lot of thought into it, into the why behind your goals, but it's really important. And it's important that we fix these 3 areas. So how do we set goals that work? What is this magical potion of things, of tips, of steps that we need to do to actually achieve the goals we want to set? I'm going to tell you. And I'm going to break this down into some really simple steps because I like things to be tangible and easy. I don't know about you guys, but I want to be able to follow a step-by-step system and have it work for me. So I'm going to break these down into easy steps, do them in this order, and you will have goals that are actually realistic, tangible, achievable, that you actually really want to go after. So first and foremost, start by thinking about your biggest goal, right? What do you want life to look like? And this is not just saying, oh, well, I want to write a book. Okay, that's not big enough. That's not a big enough goal. Maybe that is a goal. Maybe that is part of the plan. But think about your life 1 year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, even 10 or 20 years from now. What do you want life to look like? What do you want to look like? What do you want to be known for? What do you want to feel like? Imagine it like a movie in your mind and let it play and write down, or at least think about, what do you want life to look like? And what is the goal, the end game that you have your sights set on? So yes, maybe you want to write a book, maybe you want to start a podcast, maybe you want to lose a certain amount of weight or run a marathon, but why? Why do you want to do all these things? What is the end game? What is the bigger goal? What is the way that they all tie together? You got to think about that. And then you've got to work backwards to find the goal that you can complete in a year. So let's say that you want to be a millionaire. That's your big goal. You want to be a millionaire because that will give you the money that you need to, it would tell you that you're running a successful business. It will give you the money that you need to have the family that you want, to take the vacations that you want, to live in the house that you want, to live the life that you want. So your big goal is to become a millionaire. Well, people do it all the time. They become millionaires in a year, but let's be realistic here. What is the one goal that you can achieve in a year? What does that look like? Is it hitting 6 figures? Is it a certain amount of net worth? Is it starting the business because you haven't started it yet? Is it starting a savings? Is it investing? What is it that is the step that you can do in 1 year that's going to get you a little bit closer to the end game, to becoming a millionaire? So work backwards, okay? If your goal is in 10 years, I want this, work backwards and say, okay, I could accomplish this in 5 years. I could make this happen in 3. So I'm going to break it all the way down. And this is the goal that I can achieve in 1 year's time. On to the next step. Ask yourself why you want it. So this goes back to that setting goals without reason, which is part of what you're doing wrong. So here's where we want to auto correct that. Ask yourself why you want it and make sure that you have a very good reason. Okay. So back to our example of you want to be a millionaire. Why do you want to be a millionaire? It cannot just be because you want to say that you're a millionaire. It cannot just be because you got a friend that's a millionaire or people you look up to are millionaires. You've got to have a reason. Is it because you need that amount of money to have the life that you want to have and the family and the vacations and the home and all of those things? Is it because whatever? I mean, fill in the blank. What is your reason? And you've got to have a good one. It's got to be a good one. It cannot be because somebody else is doing it. It cannot be because it's expected of you. It cannot be because that's the only thing you've ever thought about for your life and you've never ventured out and thought about anything else. It cannot be those. It has to be a good reason, an intentional reason, one that gets you so fired up that you cannot imagine life without achieving this goal, right? And so ask yourself that, can I imagine a life where I don't achieve this goal? And am I still happy in that life? If the answer is no, this is a goal you need to go after. If the answer is yes, I could live without this goal happily and joyfully and wouldn't feel like I'm missing out on anything, then maybe reevaluate what your reasons are for going after this goal in the first place, because it obviously doesn't mean that much to you. After that, now it's time to get hard with yourself. Ask yourself, why hasn't it worked in the past? And this is your opportunity to sit down and be brutal. Be brutally honest with yourself. And most people fall out right here. They have trouble sitting down and actually admitting what they've done wrong in the past, what faults or failures they've had that have kept them from this goal, what it is that is actually stopping this goal in its tracks every single time. And maybe this is a new goal for you. You've never said it before, and that's okay. But take a look at your failed goals in the past. What are those goals that you've set that you didn't achieve? What are those New Year's resolutions that you created for yourself that you didn't stick to, that fell flat, that burned out? You need to take a look at those and you need to decide, okay, was it me or was it an outside circumstance? What kept me from pushing forward, from moving forward, from trying to prevail through whatever adversity was coming at me to stop me from this goal? You've got to be brutally honest. If you cannot be honest with yourself, how are you ever going to move forward? Nobody is going to see your paper. You're not going to stand up and read it in front of the class at the end of this, but you've got to sit down and focus on, what am I doing wrong? What do I need to fix? What is the inner work that I need to do? What habits do I need to break, or what habits do I need to start to be able to achieve these goals? You guys, if you can't get honest with yourself right here, right now, in this moment, talking about how to move forward, then you will not be able to move forward. You can't. If you can't be honest about what's holding you back, you cannot break through it and move forward. So be brutally honest. Ask yourself why you want it. Ask yourself why you've never been able to achieve it before. What is holding you back? Moving on. Now that you've got your goal and you know that you want it so bad, it's time to break it into smaller goals. So depending on the goal, maybe this is a monthly goal, maybe it's a weekly goal. The smaller you can go, the better. If you're trying to run a marathon, your daily goal better be to run every day, right? You should be able to break that down to a daily goal. And then have a weekly goal. So okay, I'm going to run every day, but every week I'm going to have run an extra however much than I did the previous week. So break it down into monthly, weekly, and even daily goals if you can, but get as small as possible. You want to break it down and you want to really think about what's tangible, what's realistic, what can I actually achieve in a day's time, in a week's time, in a month's time. Right? We don't want to focus on in a year's time. We want to focus on those smaller, tangible steps. Now, be careful because we tend to overestimate what we can do in a day, but underestimate what we can do in a year. So it's really easy to say, I'm going to achieve this in a day. I'm going to get all of this stuff done. But then when it comes to setting a goal for an entire year, we underestimate what we can actually achieve. And you've got to reverse that. You've got to do the work to fix your mindset and start underestimating what you can do in a day. Surprise yourself with how much you can actually get done instead of feeling stressed that you didn't achieve what you said you would in a day, and start to overestimate what you can do in a year. Start to dream a little bigger, push yourself a little harder because you've got the time to actually achieve it within a year's time. So be really, really careful of that, but break that big goal that you have for the year down into smaller, tangible steps that you can take every month, every week, or even every day. And then build in accountability, build in rewards for yourself, build in times that you're going to check in with yourself, check in on this goal. Again, this goes back to that thing we're doing wrong. We're not checking in and holding ourselves accountable. So what does accountability look like for you? Is it rewarding yourself every month if you did hit the goal? Is it telling some friends about it and asking them to hold you accountable, asking them to constantly keep talking about this goal with you, asking them to do it with you, asking them to do whatever? Is it setting a weekly check-in for yourself where you have to sit down and you have to be honest with yourself about whether or not you actually worked on that goal this week and how far along you've gotten, how far along you've progressed? What is it for you that accountability looks like? It could be check-ins, it could be rewards, it could be getting in a networking group that's doing a similar thing to you. It could be finding a mentor or a coach who's going to help you with that thing and help you stay accountable. Whatever it is for you, you've got to find it and be willing to invest either the money or the time into having it. Accountability is everything. Whether it's yourself holding you accountable or someone else, you've got to have that accountability. And you need that accountability on those smaller tangible steps that we just talked about. So you need that accountability every month or every week or even every day. So break it down into smaller goals and get that accountability. Last step. Now you've got to decide what to tackle first. Because I know, we're human, right? We have a lot of passions. We have a lot of goals. We have a lot of things that we want to achieve. And it's really easy to say, well, I've got 3 goals that I want to achieve for this year, or I've got 5, or I want to run the marathon and build the 6-figure business. And that's okay. I don't believe that you only have to set one goal for the year. What I do believe is that you can only focus on one at a time. And that doesn't mean that you're going to spend the first 6 months working on this goal and achieve it and then move on to the second goal. But it means that you've got to be proactive and productive in your time management, in your scheduling, in that productivity to be able to work on both goals, because you can only work on one at a time. You cannot go out for a run and be working on that while also doing what you need to do to build a 6-figure business or become a millionaire. It's not going to happen, right? One thing at a time. Let your mind, let your body, let your energy focus on one thing at a time. So build a timeline. You've got your goals, you know what they are, you know you want to achieve them, and you've broken them down into smaller tangible steps. So now build a timeline. What does it look like for you? What does the month of January look like for you to achieve these goals? So maybe, you're going to go for a run every day because you want to run a marathon, but you need to hit a certain amount of revenue every week because you're trying to build this 6-figure business, or you need to set aside X amount of dollars every week to go invest because you're trying to become a millionaire, right? What are those goals? What are those small tangible steps? And how can you build them into a timeline together, right? We need to know, okay, I've got these monthly goals, I've got these weekly goals, I've got these daily goals. How do they all feed in together into the schedule that I have, into the 24 hours in a day that I've been given. Figure it out, build a timeline. But here's the catch. You have got to stop treating New Year's and January and a brand spanking new year like it's magic. It's not. It's not magic. I love New Year's. It's one of my favorite holidays. I love goal setting. I love getting to bring in a new year, but there's nothing magical about it. A new year is not going to change your life on its own. You have to do that. It's not going to help you achieve goals on its own. You have to do that. It's not going to help you break the habits you need to break and start the ones you need to start in order to level up and succeed. You have to do that. You have the magic, not the new year, not January, not 2021, you. It's in you, but you've got to step out and say, okay, I am actually going to give this my all. I am actually going to put my best foot forward, and I am actually going to hold myself accountable and stick to these goals. So that is how you set goals that actually work. That's how you stay accountable. That's how you make them achievable. That is how you level up and you succeed. So I hope that this helped you in realizing why some of those goals from the past didn't work, what it is that you're doing wrong, what it is that you need to fix. And hey, there's no shame in doing it wrong. There's no shame in having goals that you didn't stick to. And maybe you follow all these steps, you do everything right, but you get a few months into the year and you realize that you don't really want this goal as much as you thought you did. And that's okay. Now it's time to pivot. Now it's time to set a new goal. Now it's time to set your sights on what you really want. But again, you got to have a good reason. Ask yourself those deep, hard questions. Get really gritty with yourself about what it is that you want, why it hasn't worked in the past, what is your why, and what are those things that you need to do to lead you to that why, to lead you to that big goal, to lead you to that life that you dreamed up for yourself a few minutes ago. You can do it. I really believe that you can. And I believe that this year is going to be your year, because now you know how to set goals that you're actually going to stick to. You know how to set goals that you're actually going to achieve, because these are goals that you actually want, right? Are you ready? Are you ready to start setting goals that you know are actually achievable and that you're really excited about? Because I am. I'm ready for me. I'm ready for you. I am so ready for us all to walk into a new year excited and ready to level up, ready to achieve these big, huge, crazy, audacious goals that we have, whatever they are. So I hope that you took some notes. I hope that you're going to implement these steps. I hope that you are ready to start setting those really achievable goals and that you are ready to succeed this year.